Oh, hello there, yes, well, good grief, that was then. But this is now, yes. When ABC sang that, what they really meant was, no one's going to buy this album, which is a bit of a shame, because it's quite good. Yeah, Beauty Stab, second one. Anyway, the game was afoot yesterday. Oh, yes, indeed. We appear to have reached some sort of, I don't know, gathering speed or climax or some other sort of metaphor that you might want to use. Anyway, I was struck by, well, Britain First being out and about yesterday afternoon, which is really good, getting people to beat their horns if they agree with the racists on the bridge. But got me thinking about, all these people that are gainfully unemployed. Because if you're out at, 3:43 p.m., roughly speaking, on a Monday, the 1st of September, school day, then you're basically unemployed, aren't you? And I'm just wondering how many of these people will eventually get done for benefit evasion, because if they're out being racists, then they're not actively looking for work, are they? No, I imagine that there are quite a few people outside various migrant hotels that are going to get stung by that in the future. Not that I'd find that highly amusing, but let's face it, these people should be kicked off welfare if they don't deserve it. Yes, indeed. Might come back to that as a concept quite quickly because, good grief. Yesterday, as again, we had Ian Smith, who was deciding to show off the fact that he has no degree whatsoever. He does like to claim that he got something in Italy, but the jury is very much out on that. It's odd, if you read his Wikipedia page, it does look like he wrote it himself, in that it's full of his kind of 200 metres breaststroke and other things that make him definitely a very, very important person, and not the sort of person that desperately needs status and attention because he doesn't have a double-barreled surname. Anyway, we get this from him. Without serious welfare reform, Britain is heading for a 1970s staley fiscal meltdown. We need to stop paying people to stay at home, or indeed go out and protest, and get them back to work. And it contains all of that usual stuff, which is our sort of standard view of economics, which is the government is deeply in debt and we can't sustain it, and therefore we have to cut back on welfare. Pretty much all of those things aren't realistically true. Whenever the standard media analysis stuff that you get talks about gilts and return on government bonds, they're not talking about the returns on government bonds. They're talking about people trading them across the internet. Now, as various economists have rightly pointed out, that's rubbish, because that's got nothing to do with what the government pays. And the moment there is a stock market crash, because let's face it, the whole AI thing is wildly overhyped, and someone somewhere will realise that simply shoving AI possibilities in front of people to create, pictures of knights on motorcycles is actually vastly expensive and basically is not economically viable, in which case people will run for safe havens, in which case the government's borrowing costs, in inverted commas, will basically fall to zero, because people will want a safe haven for their money, and in fact a lot of them will probably pay the government to take their money. So this is utter rubbish in the name of the inevitable. Ian Smith doesn't think that you should have enough money to live on. Anyway, he trumpets all the great things that were done under him, naturally, but one of the worst things that was done under him was basically having a government that will subsidise poor pay. I don't think we should do that, and I think any sensible market economic reform, because after all we have to have a free market, don't we, wouldn't actually do it. Still, that's Ian Smith for you. What does he know? Well, actually, technically speaking, less than me. And speaking of which, we do get the man with estates management. Oh yes, Mr. Rupert Lowe. You wonder why he had all those guns for shooting birds? Well, it's because he's got a degree in shooting birds. Anyway, yes, he was also posting up something very, very similar, which is basically wailing, and the standard libertarian wailing and gnashing of teeth because there's a civil servant somewhere. Yeah, politicians need to start being honest with the people about the scale of cuts required. Yeah, no debate there, you notice. It just has to be huge, or huger, or enormously big. Yes, Britain is teetering on the edge. To drag this country back, the reductions must be clear, unapologetic, and yes, brutal. Yeah, not to him, you will notice, though. Yes, anything less will fail. fail? Cuts, cuts, and then more cuts, followed by more cuts. Oh, great, because we've had that for the last 45 years, and it's certainly worked, Rupert. Well done for not noticing that, yeah? Well done for noticing, nothing. Yeah? Oh, I wonder why the road is bumpy. There appear to be a lot of potholes. Well, it must be because councils are inefficient. No tinkering with the edges, not clever accounting tricks, not fiddling around with a few billion here and there. Yeah, not a few billion. Who needs that, eh? Real reductions in the size and cost of the state. Yes, that nirvana state, which was realistically never ever achieved. If you look historically at the British state, it has always been enormous. The actual number of people employed by the British state per se in terms of the civil service was historically low. But the actual size of the British state in terms of what was needed to, make British capitalism world-beating was enormous. Think of the Royal Navy. Yes, Rupert, it's an arm of the state that needs to be paid for. You can't do the Royal Navy with cuts, because otherwise then you end up with the Royal Navy we've got now, which is basically a whole bunch of admirals and a ship. It doesn't win many votes. It certainly won't win support from those who live off the system. Yes, those scum on roundabouts and scum on bridges. But it's absolutely true. We need to strip Britain back to what works, a lean, efficient state that protects its borders, enforces its law, and provides essential services. Do a small list of things, but do them well. Anyway, there is a longer piece to that, which if you want to look at it, you can do. Yeah, indeed. Except, of course, every single government in the world since the late 1970s that has tried to strip back the state has failed enormously. Now, if Rupert thinks he can do a better job than Margaret Thatcher, he's welcome to it. But she tried and could not get the state back to basically about anything less than about 40% of GDP. It appears to be essentially what you get. Sorry, but that's it. If you want to run something that works, and by works I mean, actually having roads that aren't simply potholes, then you're going to need quite a lot of spending. Sorry, Rupert. Yeah, your nirvana is a fantasy. Still, that's estates management for you. And talking of fantasy, we have Reform, who had yet another press conference, because after all, one a day is only just enough. And we have this from Mr. Richard Tice. Yes, construction engineering and surveying. That was his degree, so that'll come in handy, the ability to not see anything on the horizon. Anyway, enough is enough. Reform sounds alarm on council pensions. Net zero targets and high fees may... That's doing a hell of a lot of work if you read the article, be costing taxpayers $10 billion a year, Richard Tice warns. Now, you may recall that Zia Youssef and his Doge team went into the councils they have nominal control over and extracted an awful lot of data. I'm not entirely sure that was entirely legal in the same way that Elon Musk did it, and they've been sifting through it, and they've decided that they're going to make some changes as and when they can make some changes. But I thought the whole costing things in local government was going to be easily sorted because, all of it was so wasteful. But what it transpires is that Richard Tice doesn't really like pension funds reacting to the people that put their money in pensions and not investing in, for example, Israeli arms manufacturers or net zero, which of course he really, really, really hates. And what he wants is for pension funds to be invested in infrastructure. Yeah, that is net zero, in case you hadn't noticed, Richard. And something like that, but not actually, presumably, nationalising the whole thing. Now, a whole bunch of economists out there have suggested it would be very, very, very good to, for example, get Britain's pension funds all under one roof and actually have a kind of national infrastructure plan. But Richard Tice doesn't actually want per se to do that. He's just suggesting that we can use it to bring down council tax, which is a bit of a useless way of doing it, realistically, when, with a bit more investment, we could actually reach net zero, which means, for example, free electricity. Basically, yeah, that's what that would mean. Think about that as a go-getting country for the 21st century. Think about what China's doing, because obviously we all know that they're evil communists doing the wrong thing. But they are very, very likely by 2030 to effectively have got rid of their coal-powered power stations, and are rapidly electrifying the entire country. You know the way that those evil communists do. Yeah, that was what Lenin was after. Boo hiss. Yes. What is it? Communism is Soviet power plus electricity, as Lenin said. But the thing is about this is this is just grandstanding on their part. What they want is to legally force pensions to effectively just invest in things they want, like North Sea oil, which will kill us effectively because we don't need to, warm the planet beyond about, I don't know, a fairly toasty 6 degrees as it basically is at the moment, and effectively have no moral qualms about where that money goes, because after all, Richard is, a good capitalist, and he works for people that basically want people not to have qualms about making profits. And not having qualms about making profits doesn't make life any better for you or I. It might do for them, albeit for a short while. But again, there's that metaphor of potholes down the road. And Richard is another one that doesn't quite understand that you need a level of infrastructure and human support for that to happen. And reducing council tax bills isn't going to make that work, is it? No. Now, there are sensible ways through all of these things, okay? We don't need to cut people's benefits when they're out of work. It would make a great deal of sense to cut people's benefits in work, I always argue, but that's because, I think we shouldn't subsidise poor employment. But if we are going to get people to do things meaningfully in the economy, then they need to be paid to do it. And Richard and Ian and Rupert, dear God, what a name, aren't interested in doing that at all. They don't mind you standing on roundabouts shouting at brown people, but by God, they don't want you to stand on roundabouts and shout at anyone that's a bit like them. Do have a lovely Tuesday if you can do. Enjoy.